I genuinely believe that the upcoming Legend of Zelda live action film will not be terrible. There's been a lot of discussion surrounding it, most of it pessimistic, and I wanted to throw in my 2 cents because I do not share that same pessimism for reasons that I'm not seeing talked about very much. I think there are three main concerns for people, being, of course, the team working on the film, the live action approach, and just the general questions on how to adapt something like Zelda. What is the plot going to be like? Who will be cast? And of course, the big one, will Link talk?
Excuse me, Prince.
Oh, just get moving.
My name is Elias with Possibility Button. So let's talk about the team working on this film. It was announced straight away that Avi Arad, apologies if I'm mispronouncing his name, is going to be co-producing with none other than Shigeru Miyamoto, with Derek Connolly writing and Wes Ball directing. And many have been quick to point out the resumes of some of these names working on the film, and the fact that there are a few hits for sure, but there's also a lot of misses, right? It's been a cause for concern for a lot of people, and for good reason. I mean, it's totally fair to point this out and criticize and to get an idea of what they're doing and what their styles are. Completely fair. I will give you that, and personally, I'm not going to criticize them. I just don't feel qualified. But I totally get it. I totally get why people are concerned. I'm looking at the same thing you are. It's not lost on me. However, I think people are really sort of forgetting sort of the bigger picture here. Let's actually go over the initial announcement sent out by Nintendo real quick. So first up, we got the tweets from Shigeru Miyamoto. This is Miyamoto. I have been working on the live-action film of The Legend of Zelda for many years now with Avi Arad-san, who has produced many mega-hit films. I have asked Avi-san to produce this film with me, and we have now officially started the development of the film with Nintendo itself heavily involved in the production. It will take time until its completion, but I hope you look forward to seeing it. And before we continue, let's also cover the press release that Nintendo put up on their corporate website. The film will be produced by Nintendo and Arad Productions Inc. and directed by Wes Ball. The film will be co-financed by Nintendo and Sony Pictures Entertainment Inc., with more than 50% financed by Nintendo. So right off the bat, Nintendo is letting us know that Nintendo is in creative control, that they're heavily invested. It's not just Miyamoto himself. This is a Nintendo project through and through. Just in those tweets, there's already 3 references to the fact that this is a Nintendo project. This is not, yeah, we sold the rights to a studio, we hope it's good. This is, no, this is our baby, right? We got one more quote from Miyamoto from the Q&A session from their financial briefing recently. I think it was the same day as the movie announcement. Miyamoto says, regarding the live-action film of The Legend of Zelda, I know we face an extremely high hurdle in producing a film that will not disappoint the global fanbase. With this challenge in mind, I have been discussing this project with Avi Arad, chairman of Arad Productions Inc., for about 10 years. Movies are just like games in that you need to spend a lot of time working on them until you get to something you're satisfied with. Movies therefore need sponsors who can lend their full support until completion. For the production of our movies, Nintendo itself acts as a sponsor. To produce the movie, we were able to assemble a group of people who are willing to commit time to the production until we come up with something we feel confident about. For the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Chris Meledandri, the founder and CEO of Illumination, and I had creative control for all aspects of movie production, and together we continued with production until we were satisfied. For the live-action film of The Legend of Zelda, Avi Arad and I are taking plenty of time to prepare. We hope to release something good that will meet everyone's expectations, so please look forward to it. So the wording here is very interesting to me. It's not just the fact that Nintendo is working on it so heavily, it's the fact that they know that that's an important distinction, and they're making it very clear to us that that is the case. Because they know, and they know how we feel. And I'm sure they're aware that there's been talk about a Zelda movie for probably decades now, and most of that talk is not positive because it's a hard thing to adapt. But Nintendo is more than aware of this, and they want us to be aware of it. Let me read one more quote for you about the impact of the Mario movie from that same briefing. The Super Mario Bros. Movie is a hit globally, with box office revenues making it the highest grossing film based on a video game and the second highest grossing animated film of all time. Many people went to see the movie, including not only those who have experience with Super Mario games, but also those who are not familiar with video games. Also, there was a broad age range among viewers from children to seniors. As the first movie in which Nintendo was directly involved in production, we believe the Super Mario Bros. Movie has achieved significant results in driving forward our basic strategy of expanding the number of people who have access to Nintendo IP. Moving forward, the movie is packed with the essence of Super Mario, including the characters, world, moves, and music, and has not only increased awareness of the IP, but also sparked affection and interest in many viewers. We expect this movie to have a positive effect on our business going forward. We can see the impact the movie has had on Nintendo's recent business. Sell-through of evergreen titles related to Super Mario from April through September increased appreciably year on year. Mobile app downloads and merchandise sales also increased. In addition, we plan to continue to release new titles related to Super Mario for Nintendo Switch. They're probably just talking about the ones that are already announced. Maybe more? Who knows, right? We expect these titles to also receive a boost from the positive momentum brought about by the movie. So, this is a very important piece of information, I think, for this conversation, because this shows us Nintendo's strategy, what they're hoping to get out of the movie, and that shows their approach to the movie, right? Their primary goal of this movie is to increase brand awareness. They want to spread what makes Mario good to people who normally wouldn't interact with Mario, who normally wouldn't interact with video games. And we should expect the same thing from Zelda, right? Zelda is wonderful. I love it. It's probably my favorite game series. Been a Zelda fan for over 20 years, and it is ripe for a movie. It is ripe for a story. It is ripe for sharing with people that wouldn't typically interact with a Zelda game, right? And that's the point of this. Obviously, they want to respect fan expectations as well. They want to make the fans happy. It is for the fans. It is also for future fans. It is also for people who have yet to really interact with the world of The Legend of Zelda, right? So here's why that's important. The primary purpose of the movie is to increase brand awareness, and that necessitates proper representation of the brand. And they've already proven themselves with the Mario movie. Love it or hate it, the Mario movie was faithful. It was Mario. Maybe you have criticism of the movie, maybe you didn't like it, totally fair, but it was Mario. They presented it incredibly faithfully, very well, and that did in fact spread to very many people, a lot of which don't really play Mario. They want to do the same thing for Zelda. They want to interact with the IP because that not only builds positive relationships for the future, but it also immediately impacts the products they already have on shelves, right? I don't believe we have to trust Avi or Wes or Derek. I don't really care about their credentials, to be honest. They were hired to do the job, but Nintendo is calling the shots, and Nintendo is letting us know they're calling the shots because they are very confident in this. What we have to really understand is this is not a gamble for Nintendo. Nintendo takes gambles with hardware, with game mechanics, with business models, with gimmicks, right? They do not take gambles with how their characters, how their IP is presented. Nintendo is not doing this because they think there's a chance it'll be good. Nintendo is doing this because they are strongly confident that this will be a good thing for Zelda. It'll be a good thing for them. They're protective almost to their detriment, and we've seen that in the Mario movie. There is no reason to expect anything different from a Zelda movie. And that's not to say it's guaranteed to be excellent, but I would be surprised if it doesn't feel like Zelda. And exactly what that means is different for a movie compared to a game. I understand that. But it's gonna feel like Zelda. Nintendo is paying a lot of money and spending a lot of time to make sure that they get to call those shots. We don't have to trust Avi, Derek, Wes. We have to trust Nintendo, and they've proven themselves. So Nintendo is making it very clear that they are in the driver's seat. I believe we can trust them, but even if that's the case, a lot of people are really just concerned that it's live action in the first place. And I'll admit, it's definitely hard to do. You have to cast Link, and that is, I don't want to be the guy with that job, right? That's terrifying. That's, you gotta find someone that looks like Link, sounds like Link, moves like Link. That's tough. That's an uphill climb. But it's been a pretty common sentiment that it should have been animated, right? That it should have looked like Studio Ghibli, or they should have literally just partnered with Studio Ghibli. And that would have been cool. Like, don't get me wrong, that would have been cool to see. I'm not a huge Studio Ghibli fan, so I'm not in love with the idea. I respect it. It's beautiful animation. I saw the trailer for the new one, The Boy and the Heron, I think it's called. It's gorgeous, don't get me wrong, it's cool. Breath of the Wild took inspiration from Ghibli, so I get why people are saying it. But there's this idea that live action is inherently a bad choice, or that somehow will restrict them from representing the imaginative, vivid, colorful, creative world of The Legend of Zelda. And I don't believe that. It's maybe scary and risky, sure, but there have been countless movies for decades that have constantly pushed what you can do with live action film and have managed to capture an incredible visual direction and tone. Think stuff like, Fifth Element. Lord of the Rings, John Wick, Matrix, Mad Max, Blade Runner, Life of Pi, RRR, Dune, Avatar, Barbie. This idea that live action is incapable of capturing larger than life, imaginative, vivid visuals just doesn't hold any weight, in my opinion. To say that live action is a disservice to the colorful, vivid nature of Zelda is in itself a disservice to the art of live action film. I totally agree. I'm the first person that would agree that a Zelda film should be colorful and vivid and crazy and not just look like real life. But I also don't believe that live action somehow restricts them from doing that. Even if you think that animation would more easily allow them to capture that, and maybe that's true, I would still say that live action film is a wonderful medium in its own right, and the ability to have live actors that capture these characters' emotions, their mannerisms, the synergy between Link and Zelda, for example, having real set pieces, real environments to tell this story in, having real props, and of course, some combination of CG, right? But having these elements has historically been used to great effect very many times and is a beautiful artistic medium in its own right. I'm the last person that wants a gritty, grungy, dark-looking Zelda movie, but I don't believe we have any reason to believe that that's what we're getting. Visual style, visual direction is crucial to the Zelda games, and Nintendo understands that. They want to capture what makes Zelda Zelda, and Zelda's never been this gritty, grungy, dark thing. Even something like Twilight Princess was an incredibly stylized, cartoonish game that didn't look anything like real life, and that was the most realistic Zelda game. They understand the importance of that, I think, better than anyone, and they have every interest in making sure that's realized in a live-action film. I'm really actually looking forward to seeing what they do with Zelda, because I do believe it will be a visual spectacle, because I believe Nintendo understands how important that is. But of course, there are so many questions to answer when trying to figure out how do we adapt The Legend of Zelda to a film. There's a lot of little questions, how should certain elements be represented, right? What are rupees going to look like? How does Link fit? A bag of like 40 bombs and like a boomerang and a bow and a grappling hook and his big wallet of money, and you know what I mean? Like, how does he fit all that? And it's not like it's coins and paper money. It doesn't fit into a wallet like it's a big sack of jewels. I don't know how that works. I don't know how they're going to do it. What I will say is that Nintendo figured out how to do that in Mario pretty darn well. They figured out the right balance of what they do and don't need to explain, right? Like for power-ups, they explained like, yeah, you touch a flower and you can throw fireballs. And that's all we need to say, right? Like, they didn't feel the need to come up with some convoluted origin story of where they came from or how they impact your body or something like that. They found the right balance. We understand this is already a world with floating islands and mushroom people and pipes take you wherever you want to go. Sure, touch a flower, throw fire. Makes sense. When your direction understands itself well enough, you can get away with that, right? And you find that right balance. And I'm pretty confident in their ability because they did that really well in Mario. I do think it's harder with Zelda. It's more in depth. It's a little more grounded. As far as something like the plot progression, are we just going to see Link go through 8 dungeons or whatever, right? No, I don't think so. Just like, again, the Mario movie, I think is a really good blueprint for what we can expect, right? They didn't need to go to 8 distinct worlds and go through levels. It didn't need to be the same premise. They didn't need to constantly jump on flagpoles, That stuff was present, but it had its purpose that served the movie, and they allowed themselves to continue on, right? And I don't expect anything different for this. It's not that we won't ever see Link enter a temple. It's not that we won't see him solve puzzles. And it's not that we won't see him collect 3 sacred MacGuffins, right? The legendary waffles of time. But they understand that they do not need to be bound by how Zelda stories have traditionally been structured, what progression is traditionally like, because that progression structure works really well for a game. And this isn't a game. So they understand that, and I have confidence in them. I think most of those things that we need to work out, Nintendo understands how to do it. Yes, they still need to cast well. They still need to have good special effects, all that sort of thing. They're probably going to put a lot of money into this because they know it's going to be successful. The biggest thing, of course, is Link's speech. Let's be real, Link is going to talk. I say that with 99.9% certainty. There's always the chance they won't, but let's be real, that he's probably going to talk. And we have to realize that it would actually be less faithful to the source material if he didn't. We see Link talking in very many Zelda games. In Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, you have dialogue options. Characters describe conversations they've had with Link. We'll occasionally see Link explain something to a character to catch them up to speed, and the camera sort of pans away, fades to black. Link's never been presented as literally mute, and there's no reason to do that now. And the other key thing is you have to remember, the primary goal of this film is to increase brand awareness, to introduce The Legend of Zelda to an audience that wouldn't typically interact with it. And a lot of people wouldn't understand why he's not talking if they went that route. And if they do have Link talking, this audience wouldn't have the same reservations that a Zelda fan would have. It wouldn't strike them as weird. So basically, there's no reason to not have Link talk in this movie. And that's a good thing. I want Link to talk in this. I think that's the right decision for the movie, because the only reason why Link's speech is presented the way that it is to allow for a degree of self-insertion into the character, right? When you're playing a game, Link is a very interesting mix of a standalone character, but also a player avatar, a self-insert. But when you make the shift to a passive story-first medium, that requirement goes away, right? So we don't see Link give speeches. We don't hear Link cracking jokes all the time. We don't see him with incredibly strong opinions, because that would all make it very difficult for the player to see themselves in Link, even though he is canonically a standalone character. We don't really get to sway how the story ends or who Link is as a person, but the game still allows us to self-insert. That is gone now. That's not what a movie does. And I think trying to hold on to this idea of Link not talking wouldn't serve a movie, and I believe Nintendo thinks the same thing. Nintendo is incredibly conscious of how their characters are characterized. They did a wonderful job in the Mario movie. Bowser felt like Bowser, Luigi felt like Luigi. Link has only gotten more characterization in recent years. In Breath of the Wild, especially, you can read diary entries of how other people view Link, right? Things like that. We understand who Link is, because remember, even though he is a self-insert, he is also a standalone character. He doesn't have no personality. He doesn't have no traits or characteristics. Nintendo understands this about Link. They understand this about their own character, right? And again, Nintendo's goal here is to properly represent their brand. So even though we're going to see, likely, a talking Link, we will likely see a lore-accurate Link. We will likely see a faithfully represented Link. If Link is characterized properly, I genuinely don't think that Link speaking is going to be nearly as big a deal as people think it is. I don't think people will care about it after the fact, very similar to the Chris Pratt Mario situation. I can't think of anybody that I've talked to that actually has an issue with Chris Pratt's performance after they've seen the movie. He just blended right in, and it worked. And that's movie magic, and I expect the same thing from this. I don't believe we have any reason to not expect that. So hopefully I was able to put your mind at ease a little bit. I very genuinely don't share those same sentiments of doom and gloom. Of course I'm concerned, it still might be bad, and I really want this to be good because I love Zelda so much. It is probably my top favorite game series, and I want to share what makes Zelda so cool with all the people out there that wouldn't normally play a Zelda game. I would love if, my friends and family members who don't really have an interest in playing Zelda would be able to watch a Zelda movie and say, wow, that is really cool. That's so awesome to me. That's so fun. I understand not everybody's going to play video games. Not everybody's going to get into that. But if we can still share what we love about these video games with people who won't touch video games, to me, that's a win-win. That's just such a cool thing. And I genuinely think that a lot of the key concerns people have are not as big a deal as they seem like they are, right? So I just really wanted to add to this discussion. It's not my usual type of video. I tend to do scripted video essays. This was not scripted, but I just had so many thoughts. I'm so passionate about this. This is something I've wanted for a long time. So I wanted to add some positivity to the conversation. So I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think. Hopefully I gave you a fresh perspective and you're encouraged a little bit. Maybe we can be more excited about this project. Hopefully Nintendo will prove me right. I still don't know if it'll be excellent, but I don't think it'll be an absolute train wreck. So anyway, thank you so much for listening, liking, sharing, commenting, all that stuff. Subscribing really genuinely helps. I love you all. God bless.